get my better computer on now. I had some technical snafus this morning. It's 8:02. The battery on the one I'm talking in might go out, David Algren. So be prepared.
Yes.
If
I'm
I
ready
suddenly
to go.
disappear, but I'm getting my other one ready, and I have a little bit of power.
On that note, we're just a little bit of housekeeping. We've kind of discussed some things last night, and we have a few people who are supporting today, and we're going to be switching back and forth. During meal times in general, we'll have two of us, most likely me and Shaylee, just kind of like co-hosting the lunches and circles. And then during the most like intensive times of classes, one of us will be a host and a backup host. And then the most awesome thing is we'll have Cassie and Julie. Cassie has signed up for doing a lot of like answering the questions for the presenters. So when the presenters want to take questions, Cassie will chime in and be like, oh, we have this question from this person in this place. And so when you hear these other voices, you can give thanks to that. And so we have a schedule. And so yeah, Julie, if you want to look over that schedule, we kind of put you in some places and we moved some things around. So we're excited to just even more streamlined than last night. So and any feedback you guys have is welcome on that note. So the morning circle, the question would be, how has permaculture thinking impacted your life? And how has permaculture thinking impacted your life? I feel like it has permeated, to take the phrase from permaculture, it's permeated all portions of my life, like to steal from Shaylee's cheese. It's kind of like it's cultivated into and turned into a very tasty cheese of my life. And Shaylee, if you could turn down your volume, or someone's volume's kind of high. And that's another homework is if anyone is going to unmute themselves, if you could bring your volume down or get a little headsets. These little earbuds are super helpful, and you really don't have to worry about it if you have earbuds in. So it kind of helps us to not have feedback. So yeah, that's my answer to the question. Who would like, why don't we do this? If you'd like to unmute yourself, I can actually see on the right-hand side of my screen who unmutes himself, and I'll just call on you, and it'll actually give me a little list of who's unmuted. If anyone wants to jump in and say something.
Yeah, I just have a quick note as we share that. In case we didn't learn each other's names or where we're from or any of that, if you could say where you are from, if it's not on your name already, thank you, Sylvan, that would be great. And if you didn't have a chance to say a couple words of intention, you're welcome to slip that in there too if you missed our opening circle from last night, because that's a nice connection point. But otherwise, permaculture thinking and how it impacts your life.
And can I add to that, as if we can think about maybe giving suggestive pronouns, especially if that's something that's important to you. I take any pronouns anyone wants to refer to me as, and I'm wide open. So if you'd like to share that, and then we'll start with Becca Parker.
Oh, hi. I think it enlivens my life a lot. It brings in a whole kaleidoscope of color and texture, and it's much more rewarding, I think, because of all the connections that are made, just personally and philosophically, a whole range of kaleidoscope.
Awesome.
It's exciting.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And anyone else want to unmute themselves, and I'll call on you? I have 0 people unmuted at this point. We have Mike. You want to give a sentence or two about what permaculture has, how it has, the permaculture thinking has impacted your life?
Permaculture has brought me a whole new set of ideas about how to live and how to be with each other. It's brought you guys into my life. I'd say I owe a lot to permaculture. It's changed virtually everything the way I see the world. It's been that big. It gives me hope for the future.
Thank you, Mike.
So,
good to see you. Next person, and you guys are welcome to go ahead and unmute when you're ready. Sylvia.
Sylvan, good morning. I was one of those people who always thought that religion seemed like a kind of cool idea, but I was far too scientific to actually be able to believe in anything. And I've realized recently that the way that I have integrated permaculture into my life as a structure and a set of sort of principles that I try to live up to, that I try to raise myself to higher standards to, is a lot like the way that other people use religion. I'm not saying permaculture is a religion, but just that it gives you something to aspire to, and a set of structure. And I think that's kind of cool that I finally found something I can believe in that way.
Thank you, Sylvan. I don't know if I recognize you and I recognize your voice from the Convergence. If you weren't at my human relations last night, I said that religion is culture externalized, and it's permaculture. So we're externalizing our permaculture, and we just created a nice little, I guess that's what religion is. So it's just vocabulary, but it's kind of funny that you say that as you're looking for a religion.
Did David freeze or did I freeze?
I think you're frozen, Shaylee.
Okay, I unfroze. All right.
Good. Thank you, Sylvan. Good to see you again. I'm glad you're here. We got Blair, Paul.
Morning.
Good morning.
I'd say that permaculture has given me a vision that I feel can exist in a world that has, I've struggled for years trying to find a vision that can exist that's can last a long period of time, whether it be multiple generations, I guess is how I've viewed it. And I think I was caught in a struggle for a long time of knowing that the path that my own life and my society that I grew up in is, interaction with the planet was not in a way that could exist for generations. And I didn't see how that could continue on. And so when, finding permaculture gave me the first time I could feel that there was a vision of what an alternative of what it could look like and what our interaction with the planet could be that would allow us to maintain our human existence on the planet. And that was an enormous amount of hope that has been given to me through that, as well as just a deep bank of literature, knowledge, people, practices, examples that are an enormous reservoir to tap into for many different activities in life.
Thank you. Thank you, Blair. And who's up next? You guys are doing a great job at muting and unmuting. It's working out great. And
I can go next. Okay. And just kind of going along the same lines as Blair and Sylvan, like my husband and I have been Christians for a very long time, or I don't know, we've been Christians. And when we learned about permaculture and we did our PDC, we were just kind of like, wow, this really goes hand in hand with our belief system. And like, it was just nice to have like like with Christianity, with our beliefs, we have a very like, you have systems and things in place and like, you know, ways to like kind of organize your thoughts. And so this gave us another way to organize our thoughts and like kind of like structure to our beliefs. So I, you know, I kind of find that neat how they went hand in hand, and then they also like helped me kind of frame my thoughts around the world. So both of them. Anyways, that's me.
And
Yeah,
go ahead.
I can go. I think I'm in with a better signal now.
Awesome.
If nobody else jumped in. Did someone else jump in? Bird, did you want to share now?
Oh, hi. Am I unmuted?
You are unmuted and I can wait.
Okay, I haven't done a Zoom meeting yet, so I'm new. And I finally got dressed, so I can be on the picture now.
Thanks.
I'm pretty new to permaculture. I've been in horticulture for 15 years. I did a lot of ornamental in Seattle, and now I have been able to get a little bit of land, only half an acre, but with permaculture principles, that should be sufficient for now.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't taken a PGC course. I'm not that knowledgeable about permaculture yet, but since there's a meeting going on of people that are within 100 miles of me, I figured I should join in.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm new and I'm here to learn and network.
Cool. If I can go, oh, I'm on 2 cameras. Am I really? That's weird. So how has permaculture, our morning conversation is how permaculture thinking has impacted our life. And for me, it's similar to that theme where I like having a system of understanding and just like ethics and the moral code behind why we do what we do has always been really important to me. And with permaculture, it's this super inclusive where it has a lot of the different hearts of religions, as in that morality and the how do you treat the world around you? How do you treat nature? How do you treat people? How do you go about making those decisions? I feel like so many spiritual religious type structures encourage like hoping you can get there through different meditative tools or just putting expectations on yourself without really getting into the design principles and thinking of how you can get there in such a clear way. And I really value how permaculture has that. Here's the principles to design that make things fair and loving and shared and sustainable. And that's kind of the heart of whatever great mystery holds all this together. It's a heart for regenerative systems where all the life and all the people and all the creatures are respected and seen, and it's more peaceful. And permaculture does this in a way that is open to people of all faith without trying to put a religious label on it. It's a philosophy of inclusivity in life. And I love that. So permaculture is impacted by life by making me feel like I was finally kind of at home within a philosophy that could pertain to human relations and my plant world and the way I cook and the way I manage my family and the way I go about my business. Like everything could kind of fit in permaculture, and it made me have a sense of I don't know, home, I guess, in that regard. So I appreciate it. Yeah, and I guess it's really impacted my thinking. I went to a permaculture convergence in 2016 and felt the spirit within me say, sign up over there because this group needs help to do this. And I thought it was just a little regional Port Townsend thing. I didn't know it was this like Northwest region thing, but I listened to that like urging in me that said to volunteer. And so here I am 4 years later, still helping. So if your heart tells you to be a part of any particular movement, especially organizing permaculture events in your community, you should do it. We need more of these sorts of gatherings, like have a camp out in your yard or in a neighbor's yard or work parties. Just to plug one of the bigger goals of the convergence right now, it's like we don't need to just depend on one big thing in Washington or Oregon each year. Like that was sort of the Northwest Permaculture Convergence of the past 13 years has been really emphasizing one big shindig once a year. But our current group of organizers, and Cassie and David and Julie are here, we're we're all of this heart of like, let's just encourage permaculture everywhere all the time. So like have work parties we can support and have campouts. We actually have a framework of a schedule that is totally open that you can have to make a little spring camp out, fall camp out, work party type deal on your farm or home. So if you want encouragement to like grow a micro convergence where you live, we want to help you do that, because we need little gatherings all the time, everywhere, so that permaculture thinking is the norm. So plug for that. Okay.
Yep.
Back to our conversation of how has permaculture thinking impacted your life? Who would like to go next?
I would just like to follow up, if I may. Hi,
Yeah.
everyone. Welcome. Good to see you all this morning, rainy morning. With what Shaylee was saying, we started last year, actually, a whole year. We did a monthly permaculture meetup, and we do it at different locations in Whatcom County. Different people kind of sign up to host, and we have a different theme, and we have a sharing circle, and then usually some kind of activity, and we encourage people to bring seeds or plants or something to share physically, and then kind of bounce around that theme. And then once COVID kind of took hold, we started doing it weekly by Zoom. Whoever could make it, we just talk like we were going into spring and planting season, and people were having questions and this and that. So it really has become some glue that holds things together in our community. And I value that, and it's been a springboard for a lot of different endeavors. We're starting a community seed garden that came out of that. We're doing a food resiliency group for Whatcom County that came out of those permaculture meetups. We're doing planning some more education things for next year that came out of. So there's a lot of these little seeds got planted in those really small group informal kind of gatherings. Very important. And to have a consistent regular get together, and not everybody can make it every time, but like, it's going to be the last Friday of the month, kind of thing. Has been really helpful.
Was that your process, Brian? Do you have a listserv or an email list, or would it just be like text messaging everybody who you know?
Yeah, we have an email list. And then we also set up a website, Whatcom Permaculture, where initially we set up the website to be kind of the hub for, we do a design course up here. So it was a hub for that, but then we've had other contributors to do posts on that, and you can do events and things like that. So people get notifications if a new event is posted up. So yeah, a number of ways, and it's kind of spread out to a wider community than people that have taken a PDC and know all about permaculture and stuff. It's been great in that way. And I love what I just caught a bit of what Shaylee was saying, is that this is really all encompassing. It's across the board. It's across political spectrums. It's across ideologies. It's across religions. And I feel it's so important that we do that at this point where everything's getting so polarized in our political realm and everything else these days. To be totally inclusive on the political spectrum and the religious spectrums and all these other wedges that are being driven into our cultures.
Yeah, we're coming around the ideas of how can we be fair? How can we be inclusive? How can we be making our system so that everything that's in the system is better because of it? And no matter what the underlying beliefs or political views, if we can come around that, that's good common ground for us to be gathering about. Yeah.
Yeah, and food and seeds and like health are all things people can get behind. You know, we all like to eat. We all like healthy food. We all like to be healthy. You know, especially all these things are coming up during these crazy times, fires, floods, you know, the whole COVID, everything, and pulling together as a community. Permaculture has a lot of tools for doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Are there others who would like to share how permaculture has impacted your life? And if you haven't shared yet, where you're from, and you're welcome to do a couple words of intention for the weekend too. I see Norm and Darcy that I haven't heard from yet. Yes? No? Space?
No,
No?
please go before me, but is there anyone? Otherwise I can go.
Yeah, please, Julie. How has permaculture thinking impacted your world, your life?
Okay, I didn't prepare this.
That's okay.
So I guess what I'm learning, I mean, I was first exposed to permaculture only a few years ago when I wanted to grow more food, and I live in a forest, and I found this term on YouTube called food forest. And that led me to permaculture. And Permies.com, which I think that's the .com of the forum, there allowed me to look for people in my area, because I've built communities online for decades. That's one thing I like about the internet, is the connection that you can make worldwide. It's very exciting for me. And so I finally eventually found Northwest Permaculture Convergence, and there's a story in how it connected me to 6 miles away. Finally, an internet intentional community called Sahali, which is a miracle. That's like a parallel shift in my life. Anyway, that's really important that Northwest Permaculture Convergence and permaculture has somehow manifested 6 miles away from me the thing that I thought that I wanted most in life, is an intentional community, Sahale. That's a total miracle. The thing I'm realizing in these 3 years is the most important thing to me about permaculture is the people. The people care. And I'm gonna switch over to something like a light bulb that happened when I was growing up, when I realized that I did have a passion. Somebody said this word, it was called networking. This is before the internet, right? And I just lit up like a light bulb, like a candle. And I love the idea. I love the idea of building community. That's what I've been doing online. I'm so glad that I can now do it physically in my local area. And that's what I've realized is the most important thing to me. I love what all of you are sharing about the connection between religion, or I would say spirituality, giving us a guidance. And what Shaylee and Brian brought up was that it's a guidance to all things in our life, and it's something that across diverse groups of people, we all care about something. We all care about health, and we all care about the earth, and we all care about all these different things, food, what we eat, and making the planet someplace where we can continue living, giving us hope, and an idea of abundance and abundance and sufficiency. Those things have been very inspiring for me. But I would say the most important thing to me is clearly, in case probably all of you have seen it in me before, but I'm realizing that myself that the people and connecting the islands of heaven on earth and building those islands of heaven on earth all around the world and starting locally is what's so important to me. So thank you, everybody. And I appreciate in the opening circle yesterday, so many people saying they're looking for community. They're looking for their people. They're looking for their place. And I'm feeling that. And I feel like crying. That's really, really, really important to me, is that we all connect and create the world that we all, more beautiful world we all know is possible. And Brian, I want to say about yours that when you went from creating a monthly meetup to creating a weekly meetup when it was possibly politically inappropriate to get together more often. Of course, we can do it virtually. But to go with the pandemic, the response was to go weekly. That's what I'm talking about. I mean, that's what needs to happen, is we need to connect more consistently and really support each other and build community and connections and love.
Yeah,
that's the most important thing.
That was my immediate response, and a number of other people within the group was like, why are they saying socially distant? You know, using that term. Like, that is not what we need right now. We need to be connected and supportive and working, problem solving together. So I always try and use physically distant, you know, not socially distant. So it's choice of words are really important on this stuff. And as a result, we've made some major strides, not just within like people, like-minded people, but we've actually made, planted seeds, literally and figuratively, with the city to start food forests all along the greenways and public spaces in parks. We've started a program to get seeds into all the urban gardeners' hands that want to plant gardens, so they have that. We've gotten mentors with knowledge in growing things to help support other people that are first-time gardeners, etc. You know, so all of these things came out of some of these meetings. Are like, let's brainstorm. What can we do?
Yeah, there's so much work to be done, and I'm really happy that I got pretty excited when the pandemic hit. It was like, yes, now we can do it. Now we can focus, we can make these shifts. Let's shut down the economy. Let's shut down. I know this is hurtful for some people, but this was my perspective, in my own personal private heart, that, you know, if people can't go to work or their businesses are shut down, there's so much work to do, and we can refocus and rebuild all the systems that clearly need to be changed. And I know it's still going to take time, and we have to be patient and gentle and slow, especially in our human relationships. But I'm very excited that the pandemic is here. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah, and that brings us to kind of the other part of our morning circle time. It's to share how permaculture thinking has impacted our life, and then to kind of root into that. There's this project we started last year that was called Visualizing the Permandala. And if you were there with us at Lost Valley, I made this huge poster on canvas painted. If you look at our little symbol for this year, it's this black and white mandala of the permaculture symbols, and one that came up in a lot of our—
That's my profile picture.
Yeah.
If you want to put that up on screen, people can look at it.
Yeah, if we have our host, if you look at the, Cassie, if you look at the host picture for her as your main person, that's the symbol. And it's on our website, and in Slack, it's like the thing. And that's a Permandala. And I made a coloring book that's for our kids program and for everybody really, that Julie's helping me format into a PDF for easy use. It's a really simple, the Permandala project is simple. You can take that coloring book or look at the poster and read the words, creatively use and respond to change. I don't have them all in front of me. Capture and store energy. It's like all of them are right there.
And that has been linked at the top of the protocol sheet if people want to get to that coloring book page.
Oh, cool.
It's there, and it's on the website, so you can download the PDF.
Awesome. It's done. And thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you so much, Julie and Russ, for helping format it into a PDF. I had all these files and I scanned it and made it into this book I could print out for the youth program at Global Earth Repair. But it was like me printing all these things and having a stack of paper, and Julie formatted it into a wonderful PDF that all of you, please print it out, share it with kids, share it with people, anyone who might want an introduction to permaculture. You can give them that or that file. And the point of the Permandala project is to research that combination of words with the lens of permaculture design thinking. You can do it on the internet, you can do it with books, and you can just do it in your heart. How do these words tie into creating a world that is a inclusive, sharing, regenerative, like self-sustaining sort of space? And just like bathe yourself in those thoughts and that idea. Or if you have a problem in your life, flip through the pages. How can these principles help turn this problem into a solution with a kind of openness? And that's the Permandala project, is to do that and then write it down and have a time where we focus in our heart which one of these principles or which couple of them are really like glimmers in my life. I heard a friend of mine put it out there that there's like, we all hear about people being triggered by things. Let's flip that and think about what are our glimmers, what makes us really excited and stoked. So let's look for permaculture glimmers, where these principles and these ethics like don't trigger, they glimmer something that's really exciting about how this problem that has been tearing apart our life or our home or our family or society has been reformatted and renewed into something that makes the whole world better. Anything that really, really sucks can be something that is awesome when we apply these principles and are patient and just have faith in the process. It's like the holy compost pile. Excuse my language, but the shit and the bones and the carnage and all of the broken, nasty pieces make the best compost when they're given good culture and time and turning. So like, let's do that and let the permaculture thinking be like compost to the problems in our life, where we can let them stir and find ways that they can breathe life. So Permandala project, please look at that coloring book or just research the design principles and ethics and share with us. You can print out the coloring book and you can write it in words. You can put it on a napkin. Last year we had pieces of fabric and we're turning this flower. I'll hang it up on the wall behind me sometime. It's huge so you can see it. We had little petals. They were 12-inch square pieces of fabric that people were invited to draw how the permaculture principles are showing up in their life. So it's this practicality of, here's a design principle, here's how it looks in my life, and here's where I am in the world. And with that information, we can have this permaculture atlas, a living database of our lives and the models of how these tools are helping us build the world that we want to live in. There are so many people out there that feel completely hopeless, that the world is just going to hell in a handbasket. It's on fire because it needs to be, and there's nothing we can do about it. But that's not true. There's a lot of things we could do about it, and a lot of us are doing awesome things, like what Brian was just sharing about Whatcom County and seeds in the streets and people making it beautiful. And there's all these little things that it looks different where I live. It looks different in Oregon. It looks different in the country as it does in the city. And the more we share what's going on, the more people can be encouraged, and we can do it. You know, if my friend's doing something, I can do it. There's this attainability of seeing a normal bodied human who's just, you know, it's approachable when it's somebody we know that we've talked to that is doing these things. It's not just like reading in a book by somebody who lived in Australia 30 years ago. It's somebody here and now that's doing these things, and we can do them too. So that's the Permandala project. So I encourage you, get the book, meditate on the principles, think about how you can share that, like draw it on a thing, take a picture, put it in one of our groups, and let's be building up this atlas. We actually made a channel for the Permaculture Atlas, and there's a GIS person, like Mackie was kind of down, if you people know him. If anybody else wants to be on that, let's actually make like a Google map or an interface where we can click on images and ideas over time and have contact information if people want that. That's the bigger dream, is to have this actual mappy, tool-based, resource-based kind of directory map atlas interface that we can connect, because that's kind of easy to do with digital tools now. And then we can connect in a super meaningful way and be really inspired by each other. So in that regard, does anybody want to speak to a specific principle and how it looks in their life? Would it help if I listed the principles? And you can just interrupt me if you feel inspired. I want to plug the Discord and Slack channels again as a place that we're starting to build up a way to converse and share models. I know it's like another technological tool, but it's a great way to engage with people. And
I just want to say, if anyone if they want to see the Permandala project from last year, we do have an archive section with photos, and there are photos of the project last year. You can see the scale of it next to friends who are going to be here with us this weekend. So if you want to look through, and while we're in our convergence, look at old convergence photos, it might be
cool.
a
Is
fun
it
experience.
under photos?
Yeah, under photos, and then there's 2019, and 2018 has their photos there too. So yeah, that's all there.
Blair's also put it up as his profile picture, as you can see there. I think that's it, at least.
Yeah, that was an image from last year's. I threw it up as my profile picture.
Awesome.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Very nice, Blair.
I can jump in. One of the petals is diversity, and diversity within the humans. And I kind of randomly mentioned this last night, and it's something kind of new to me, is creating a list of what diversity is. Diversity of all kinds of things. I enjoy on our board of directors the diversity of personalities, diversity of thought, diversity of vision, diversity of, we have the obvious ones, race and culture, religion, which is culturally externalized. Age is one that we don't champion that often. And I feel like when we're dealing with intentional communities, age is one of those things that really hit me. When I visited Sangaya, I was asked to have dinner with them after speaking at one of the convergences. And I asked the question to one of the people who, actually within the community, I asked the question public, is like, what would be one thing you'd do differently? And they said they would have facilitated patterns of age diversity within the community, because what happened is they all grew old together, and so they didn't have a variety of age there. So that really hit me, and over the years I've kind of integrated that into some of my designs, is how we can we create patterns of age diversity. So yeah, there's lots of different diversity we can have. Shaylee mentioned when it comes to agriculture, the diversity of root depth, the diversity of root width. we also can look at that as humans, is sometimes some of us have a really deep root and some of us have a really shallow root. And there's benefits to both of them, and how we can integrate that into community and organizations that are going to promote change.
I'm hearing that for the first time, the benefits of shallow roots and deep roots. That's fascinating.
Yeah, what does it mean to be a shallow rooted person? What does it mean to be a deeply rooted person? And I heard little like tidbits of that in the discussion yesterday, I guess it was. I think someone had mentioned, Shaylee, that the gentleman that was with you lives in a van. And it reminded me of some of the other people within the permaculture who move around, and they are kind of sometimes super valuable parts of community, but they're transient. And so they are shallow rooted, at least at this point in their life. And they truly value the deeply rooted ones. But we also, I have been blessed immensely by students and friends and also mentors that have been shallow rooted people. You're muted, Shaylee.
I just put a link in the chat over there that is the Google Doc of just all the principles and the ethics as the outline in black and white. And if I may, I will read the 12 design principles. They are, well, the heart is earth care, fair share, and people care. And if I can digress for 1 second, I liken those to peace, passion, and purpose. If I don't know what to do, if you can see that there's a triquetra, which is this shape of a 3-pointed knot. It's a really beautiful symbol that's used, you know, by a lot of different beliefs and meanings. But it's neat because one art can be peace, the other one can be passion, and the other one can be purpose. And it fits wonderfully in the inside of a heart, the peace, passion, and purpose. And I feel like if I hone into that in my thinking, that's hard to see, Julie. Oh, there you go. Thanks. Yeah, if we hone into that, it really helps us know where to go. There's this like peacefulness that happens when we are caring for, you know, like depending on my mood, one of these really seems to correlate towards peace, like this fair share business. And the purpose and the passion, depending on the project, it's either the people care or the earth care. And if I don't know what to do, I can root into that. And then these design principles seem to illuminate how they can work with that foundation, creatively using and responding to changes. To observe and interact. This means listening, being patient. I feel observe and interact roots into a culture of consent, where we stop and listen to the world around us and have that strong yes or desire that comes from the environment that we want to alter or the people we want to work with or get into a project. I mean, projects are an intimate space, and in anything like that, having that willingness to be a part of the project is just so important. Catching and storing energy, that's how we're fueled for the future. Obtaining a yield, that means we're doing something right. Self-regulation and accepting feedback, that ties into this observing. It's waiting for feedback and being able to accept it with grace. If someone tells us something that we're not doing well, that means they care. They could just cut us out of their life. It's really easy to do that. Accepting feedback means that we're around people that care about us. Using and valuing renewables. Produce no waste. There doesn't need to be waste. Designing, this should say design from the patterns to the details. This was one I changed. Oh, look, I can change it right now. If that showed up.
It'll have a little bit of a delay, probably.
Yeah.
Emergent design.
That's right. I missed that in there. Integrate rather than segregate. That's so important for everything we build. There's ways to bring people together to make it work and like everything there's like, I love how the biomimicry, a lot of these principles, if we just ponder on nature, what they mean will show up, like integrating rather than segregating. In a healthy garden or forest system, we don't just have plants in pots perfectly spaced away from each other with their ideal growing conditions. We can find a way to make everything intermingle in a way that's healthy. In gardens, I've noticed that in some spaces, there's a plant that might overgrow its zone or conflict with what's around it. And it's not that that plant is bad. It's just that we can find other conditions so everything can still be okay. But maybe this one doesn't need to be in the middle. It needs to be over here. All right. Slow, small solutions. Valuing diversity. Using the edges and valuing the marginal. Edge effect is a really wonderful thing to study too. There we go. Now I'm getting that. Patterns to the detail. That showed up right.
I really liked what Abby said yesterday about, you know, you have your social circle, but like, she's like, no, not a social circle, like a social spiral. And then like in permaculture, you get so many more edge spaces when you have a spiral versus just a circle. So
yeah, that's so true. And in designing from patterns to details, that's relating to this observing and interacting and accepting feedback. It's observing the overarching patterns and from that design the details. Would anybody else like to share on what any of these look like in their life right now? I bet there's someone.
Well, I would say we're all in the mode, or I believe we are, and I definitely am, in the mode of catching and storing energy as the fall harvests are coming into their final days, and we're looking back at the year and what we've been able to produce, or relationships we've been able to build, and goals we've been able to get closer to. Also with seed saving, it's like the last hurrah for these plants, and the weather is coming, and it's like the scurrying around like a squirrel, catching and storing that energy before all of that, the year's energy that's gone into this production is lost. And so it's really this interesting time on the shoulder season of okay, well, this didn't turn out, but that did, and you know, I planted these seeds figuratively or really, and this worked or this didn't work, but like, what can I catch and store and put it in my larder of you know, whether it's food or seeds, or okay, this project is something we're going to carry on with, and I'm going to conserve my energy and put it towards that because that's what I want to preserve. So it's just it's a reevaluation time before we totally go into the dormant season of you know, the dark winter wet time. So that's what I've been doing a lot. Catch and store energy.
It's so fun that we can watch trees do that right now. As they change colors, what they're doing is they're turning off their chlorophyll machines, so the leaves cease to be green once the chlorophyll stops working. Then we have this moment of seeing the actual color of the leaf, and then the plants start to pull all the sugars and energy that's still alive or still useful. They suck that basically back in to their branches and their trunk and their root system. So we're watching our shrubs catch and store that energy that they still have. And when they've sucked all the life out of the leaves, they wither and brown and fall off. And all that good stuff turns into like lignins and protective compounds that are kind of unique to each plant species. But that's what's going on. It's so cool to watch nature do that. Capture and store energy this time of year. For those of us who have joined us more recently in this, our morning circle, we are sharing how permaculture thinking has impacted our life and then talking about the Permandala project, which you can dive into with a coloring book that we've put on all of the resources now as a way to help kind of do this self-study of the permaculture design principles so we can apply them in our life and share how we're applying them. And I noticed a typo on this page with that design from patterns to details. Julie, if it's not too hard and that page was in the book, if we could replace that and update our file. That's what's nice about not printing things on 200 things on paper right away, but having live links. I like how, just to speak for the permaculture convergence, with our event this year, we have this kind of self-regulating, accepting feedback. We have observing and interacting. We have creatively using and responding to changes. We have valuing diversity, using edges, slow, small solutions, integrating, designing from patterns to details. All of that is represented in this convergence. We have the ability to make these little tiny changes as people send us a message like, hey, this doesn't work for me, or can we do this? We've been able to modify things as we go. And we've also had this this ability, and this is the one that doesn't have the worm picture either, so I don't know about that. We've also had the ability with our schedule to make little changes, and with the design from patterns to details, we took the key elements of the convergence, which is having the space time, having speakers, and having ability to encourage work parties and connections on the ground. Those are like the things that make the convergence worth it. And that's like the core scaffolding of what we built our schedule around. And then we got to kind of cut out a lot of the busy, stressful stuff. I mean, it was a new project, but really fun to create with everybody. So thank you all for being a part of this like new deal. Would anybody like to share how permaculture thinking has impacted their life, or how these principles are showing up? I see Kelda's here.
I can say something, and it's funny, like, I'm not in the Northwest right now, but I'm from the Northwest, so I know some of your faces, but mostly it's just solutions. There's probably sorry, my daughter's right here. What are you doing? What are you doing? Sorry. It's just that there's a solution for most everything, right? And that's, I think, when people go through the permaculture design process and that curriculum, is just kind of like, oh, like it's not always a battle. It's just like there's just a solution for any kind of design problem, and then you start applying that to social situations. It's like, well, I think what emerges after a permaculture design course is not necessarily like that people know everything, that just they know that there's a solution for something out there somewhere, you know, and that the reframing is to be solution oriented. Someone probably said that already.
No.
Okay.
Oh. Yeah, it's good because there's this like hopefulness that the solution will be found if we're patient and take small steps there and are open to these, you know, just kind of the unfolding design. If we listen and accept feedback, we're going to get to a better solution. And the solution may be evolving because things always change. And there's a lot of peace from that understanding. It kind of helps have, I don't know, contentment with whatever we're at in the process. Would anybody else like to share? I see Galen is here. No?
I've been thinking a lot about the concept of sharing the surplus, you know, and thinking about, you know, the idea that, you know, things when they're stored a lot of times lose value, whether it be by spoilage of crops or inflation taking away monetary reserves, you know, for people that have just cash sitting, and this idea of how to integrate that, you know, into my life, you know, and in the life of our society, you know, and that idea of just sharing the surplus. And that's been a theme that I've been thinking about for the past, you know, through the pandemic, as people hoard various items and toilet papers and whatnot, and how that needs to be manifested itself so that there's so we can live in an abundant world, not one where people are hoarding, which is an easy path to fall into.
This is Galen, and yeah, I really, when I jumped on, you were talking about the feedback and getting feedback from the system, and that's seems so obvious and so important, and yet we don't do that. You know, society as a whole doesn't do that. I mean, the whole climate crisis is because there's been feedback coming to us from the environment for decades, and people have been ignoring it because they didn't want feedback. They just wanted to make money or other values. And then I've also been thinking that about how important community is, because if we're not in community and we're not supporting each other and prepared when the system that supports our society's individualistic consumption breaks down, you know, people that aren't in a community of supporters are going to have a hard time, I think.
So true, Kaylin. Thank you. I appreciate you. And now you're up on video.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't have it turned on.
That's all right. That's all right. We're able to focus on your voice.
Yeah, and voices are welcome. That's just for part of our housekeeping stuff. I want everyone to feel the freedom to do what they need to. That's a nice inclusive parameter of our convergence this year. Is we're recording pretty much everything. And so you can view it later if you need to. Like, I want to be here and not miss out, but you can watch stuff later. And you can also call in with your telephone, and you don't need to be glued to a screen at all. You could call in with like a old cell phone that doesn't even have a fancy screen. And you could, if you could, Bluetooth it to ear things, and you can go for a walk and listen to our conversation and talk when you feel compelled to. That's a completely acceptable way to engage in the permaculture convergence this year. You have that liberty to be outside and to come and go as you please, which is great because some of us have families and farms or aren't in the Northwest. And I love that, being able to be super inclusive this year, where you do not need to be an able-bodied person that can pay money and travel across state and like all these things. That bit of the convergence didn't really feel that inclusive to me. So I love that with this format, we are. And in future years, even when we can do our big hootenanny on the ground, we can still do this so that people can join in who don't have that liberty. And I'm so grateful that that's emerged from us gathering this year. I see. Oh, yes, David?
Can I jump on this? Just so we can repeat some of the stuff from yesterday. People are welcome to be anonymous. We noticed last night as a board that there was someone that was looking at one of our papers that looked, I don't know, something strange like fluffy unicorn or something like rainbow unicorn or something fun. You can be funny and be anonymous. And so we want to be consensual in that because this is a public forum. You can be super private and make us all laugh. So we want to just welcome everyone, even if they don't want to be their face shown. You just can make up a name and you don't even have to share your voice if you don't feel like it.
Yeah, in that housekeeping stuff, pretty much everything's recorded. We're not necessarily going to put everything online for everybody, but we might someday. Our intention is to have all of our sessions recorded and in an easy to get to log for everybody who's here right now, and then take some of the useful bits and put them online. So anything on the Zoom, anything on your Zoom screen would be showed. So if you don't want your name or your likeness, please, you could write like the grumpy gorilla and have a picture of a gorilla. And that's okay. That's totally fine. You can do whatever you want to, and we will still respect you and listen to you and give you space. We might laugh, but it's with like joy at this quirky community of interesting people who want to envision and create a better world. So yeah, that's how we're doing it. That was one of the heart. We thought about having like a privacy statement and let people opt in and out. And that was just too much crazy to try to navigate. And with the goal of sharing ideas and educating people and making the world better, we really felt good about just saying, we just are going to make a stand that we're going to be radically inclusive and vulnerable. And if you want to opt out, do it with your sovereignty to be anonymous in this portal. So yeah. Yep. Is there any questions? Julie, I saw you had a hand raised.
Yeah. I hear we're talking about inclusiveness, basically, I think, and vulnerability, and the invitation to make yourself an avatar or a new name. You can do both of that on Zoom fairly easily. You know who to contact, Cassie or I, if you need help technically with stuff. But it reminds me of another little PSA, quick one, that I want to remind everybody that if there is something that you want to see again or for the first time that you know was recorded, this is a lot of content to edit, but I do that and would love to serve you in that way. If you know of a piece, all you need that you want to see the recording of, all you have to do is notice where it is on the schedule and contact us, either in Slack or Discord or info@northwestpermaculture.org, right? Or and happy to do it. So you won't miss a thing. Do whatever you need to do. Let yourself be. Let this be a healing weekend for you. Be yourself. Thank you.
Awesome. We're on time. Shaylee, we're up for moving on to Brian.
Sure. Yeah. I just have one more note in the chat and then I'm going to copy and paste it away. But there's a full version of that picture that has a light watercolor. If you don't want to paint or anything and you just want something that's a little more cheerful, it has the worm in there and is watercolored. And I just put it in the chat. It's just a thing that you can look at that I found that was more complete.